which of these scenarios is the most embarrassing. Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? Oh, the computer says it is Josh Bassais not having a single supporter in District 3. Wow.
Who else was it going to be, honestly?
We're rolling. We're rolling.
This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.
Thank you for joining us again as the Commissioner of Community Punditry. Is that nickname catching on?
I don't think so, but we haven't really used it very often, so there's still time. Don't give up yet.
So maybe you could change your email signature at the park board to just be Commissioner of Community Punditry.
Yeah, there may be some sort of policy about that, but I'll check into it.
You can't promote your podcasting career using official government emails?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Well, we are back on the Wedge Live podcast. I'm your host, John Edwards. Joining me today for this episode, wrapping up the results of the Hennepin County DFL Convention, is Commissioner of Community Punditry, Jason Garcia, also Commissioner of District 4 on the park board.
Yes.
And Josh Martin, a high-ranking DFL official. Just a warning, we couldn't get Taylor on this episode. We're going to our third string, which is high party official Josh Martin, who is
That makes sense. Yeah, I'll accept third string.
Obligated by DFL bylaws to be boring as hell, not really insightful, kind of useless, but we can at least trust your facts, right? You can be factual.
I can provide facts. I should be able to do that. I have to be in compliance with all the rules and everything, and I was parliamentarian on the day, and of course I'm still the CD5 chair, but yeah, I can provide facts.
And for anyone who thinks Josh is just pretending to be boring in public and behind the scenes, he's just yucking it up and is hilarious and insightful and a very interesting friend, that's not true. He's become also a very boring friend to have behind the scenes.
Okay. Well, thank you for letting everyone know that I am the same behind closed doors as I am on the podcast, just boring all the time.
Jason, have you also noticed this transformation in Josh? Boring on camera and off?
I will say that Josh has always had very strong ethics, and he applies those ethics evenly across his entire life, whether it is his public, no-nonsense parliamentarian persona or his behind-the-scenes persona.
Okay. That's a good endorsement. So I feel like the headline from the county convention is Sheriff Witt subjected to 5 rounds of stalemate against no opposition and leaves the convention by withdrawing.
What I do know is it does not change my moral compass. From day one, I said I will never forget where I came from, and that still holds true today. With that being said, I would like to withdraw my name from the DFL endorsement, and I'll see you in November at the ballot. Thank you.
And surrendering to no one. Do I have that correct, Josh?
I don't know that I would phrase it that way, but so at the convention, the first endorsement was the endorsement for Hennepin County Sheriff. In most circumstances, when a candidate is running unopposed, we do a quick voice vote for acclamation. There's usually nobody saying no, or maybe only a handful of people saying no, and it's pretty obvious that the lone candidate has met the 60% threshold. And DFL rules always require 60% for an endorsement. In this circumstance, that did not happen. It was unclear from the stage whether the candidate had obtained 60%, and we took account and determined that, in fact, Sheriff Dawanna Witt had not obtained 60%. After that, we proceeded as we would with any other endorsement, where we proceeded to additional rounds. But yes, as you said, after 5 rounds, Dawanna Witt still had not achieved the 60%. She then subsequently withdrew. So no action was ultimately taken regarding the Hennepin County Sheriff endorsement. Dawanna Witt was not endorsed, but there was also never an affirmative vote for no endorsement.
Has it ever occurred that someone has gone 5 rounds against no one and still had to withdraw and go away?
I am not personally aware of a situation quite like this. I have heard vaguely that there may have been instances where a candidate did not receive an endorsement before, but I am not aware of an instance quite like this.
There was a moment where someone was like, when Witt failed to get endorsed on the first vote, the opposition was very jubilant. They're like, yes, we won. And then they were upset that it could go to a second round. Do you have any idea? So obviously these people are not familiar with usual convention procedures. Otherwise they would know it could keep going. Were there a lot of first timers at this convention? Do you know that, Josh?
There were a lot of first timers at the convention. I will also say that even if people are familiar with convention procedures, as I said, at the convention, that it's not typical for a race with only one candidate to go more than one round. So that may have surprised some people, even if they were familiar with how convention proceedings normally work for a race with multiple candidates.
So, Jason, I'm going to read from Sheriff Witt's fundraising email today. It says, on Saturday, I withdrew from the DFL endorsement process after receiving 58% support from delegates, just short of the 60% threshold required for endorsement. While this wasn't the outcome we hoped for, my top priority has always been the safety of Hennepin County residents. That matters more to me than any party endorsement. Doing the right thing during tense and divided times means taking criticism from the political extremes. Over the past 4 years, I have made difficult decisions based on what I believe was best for public safety, and so on and so on. Like, should we attribute people's upsetness with Sheriff Witt to the political extremes? Is it extremist to be against, to oppose her endorsement as sheriff, you think?
I mean, I think that is a stretch, because you're basically saying that more than 40% of people in attendance at the Hennepin County convention, or endorsing event, were extremists, which I feel is a very difficult claim to make and take seriously. Later on in that email, she says, we need leaders who can build coalitions, earn trust, and focus on results rather than ideological purity tests. And that really stuck out to me, because while I was attending the convention, sitting in the District 3 section, one of my neighbors in the section, someone from our precinct here in 10-1, had been elected as a delegate because she showed up at caucus night. You remember caucus night at the Uptown VFW, with her arm in a sling and her hand in a cast, where one of her fingers had been broken by a Hennepin County Sheriff's deputy. Her shoulder had been dislocated because she had been involved in a protest outside the Whipple building. That wasn't done by ICE. That was done by Hennepin County Sheriff's deputies. She showed up at caucus night and said, my goal is to be elected as a delegate to go and vote against giving the DFL sanction to the sheriff, because this is what she and her organization are doing to people right now.
Yeah.
It's very hard to sit next to somebody and hear that story and not feel moved and not feel like, yeah, this isn't something that we support. And I think the fact that she, in her first caucus night, was elected as a delegate to go to her first convention, because of that story, really says that it's something that a lot of people understand and support. I don't think you can blame this on some sort of purity test or some sort of extremism. And if it is a purity test, I suppose you would have to say the purity test is to not have police brutalizing people who are protesting a fascist movement from our federal government.
Yeah, it seems like she's trying to make a distinction between, well, we're not ICE. We're not the ones going around in convoys rounding people up, and like the behavior of her deputies outside the federal building, which, I don't know, people are allowed to be upset about that too. That is related.
Yeah.
Has she ever addressed the criticism at all, specifically about behavior of deputies at the federal building? Because I have not heard it. It always resorts to like she had one of her employees was a delegate and got up on the mic and said, "Oh, I've seen her behind closed doors standing up to Tom Homan," but I never hear it addressed like, what do you think about how your deputies are operating? You think it's fine? What do you think about these specific incidents? And we don't really get to that from the sheriff.
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, there hasn't been any sort of public statement or anything even really acknowledging that sort of treatment. And, you know, I've had over the past several months the opportunity to talk to multiple law enforcement personnel at various ranks throughout the system, serving in various departments. And I understand that a lot of them were put in difficult positions. They weren't necessarily doing the things that they wanted to do, but they were also trying to, you know, maybe not be the ones to kick off an armed confrontation with federal police or federal agents, which I think is a fair thing to say. However, when you don't make any effort to show contrition or remorse for the things that have happened, I think it allows that to fester and create a negative situation where you have people who don't want to see you being rewarded by the DFL with an endorsement.
Josh, I have heard it said that Sheriff Witt is almost certainly going to be reelected as sheriff, doesn't really have serious opposition. Is that an accurate way to characterize this?
I think it's likely. My understanding is that there was a pretty decisive victory by Sheriff Witt in the 2022 election for sheriff. She's essentially running against the same opponent this time. That opponent is this time around... oh, yes, I found it. 2022, Dawanna Witt ran against Joseph Banks, who she will be running against again this time. Dawanna Witt won 64% of the vote, and Joseph Banks 35.4% of the vote.
Now, is Joseph Banks the men's clothing magnate? Is that Joseph Banks that we're talking about?
At Joseph A. Bank.
My understanding is there's no connection with the men's clothing store.
4 suits for the price of 1.
Joseph Banks last time around ran as an independent. This time Joseph Banks is the candidate endorsed by the Republican Party. However, I'm not entirely certain that is a helpful endorsement to have in Hennepin County. So just generally speaking, I think that Dawanna Witt is still favored to win the general election, notwithstanding the events of this past weekend.
I have a vague recollection of seeing Joseph Banks at a DFL convention many, many years ago, but I can't really be sure. Do you know?
Well, he
Josh?
actually was at he was at this DFL convention.
Okay, yeah.
We
had
to kick him out, but yeah.
So I was right about that. So I had heard that the Republican candidate showed up to this convention and was.
I did not personally witness this, but I was advised by the sergeants at arms and other staff at the convention that Joseph Banks showed up to the convention and started distributing literature, he was promptly removed because, we can't have the Republican endorsed candidate at a DFL convention.
Well, if we're going to start kicking Republicans out of DFL conventions, don't we need to notify like the people who organize the Ward 7 convention that's a rule? Because I have heard that Ward 7 welcomes Republicans into their delegation there. That's been my experience.
So there was one particular instance at the Ward 7 convention where there was a credentials challenge relating to someone who had made donations to presidential candidate Nikki Haley. The argument made by the delegate was that they were DFL or they support DFL candidates, but they intervened in that primary in an attempt to defeat Donald Trump in the Republican primary, obviously not successfully. I have no comment on the merits of ultimately of what happened there, but the Ward 7 convention body voted to seat that delegate and that he was a DFLer.
I'm just trying to make a joke about Ward 7, and Josh has perfect recall of the details of what I'm making a reference to. Wow, the fact checks of my jokes are so compelling. Listeners are going to be thrilled with this episode, Josh.
You did say that Josh could provide facts. You did.
Josh provides facts.
That's what you bring me here for, yeah.
Throwing
to Photoshop things on screens behind me.
Throwing cold water on the hot audio that Jason and I are producing is Josh's job here.
That's right.
So Cedrick Frazier endorsed on the first ballot for Hennepin County Attorney. What stood out to me from this, in addition to Cedrick Frazier having very, very strong support, it would appear, in a strong campaign, Anders Folk falling to third place. My assumption was this was a Cedrick Frazier versus Anders Folk race for the county's top prosecutor. So here's my theory, that Anders Folk is at risk of getting Ryan Winklered. And I'm going to explain it. We've got a middle of the road, not very fiery establishment white guy. That's Anders Folk. That is Ryan Winkler. We've got an opponent who is maybe being underestimated, who is a person of color with kind of a hook. And Martha Holton Dimmick's hook was that she's a fire-breathing law and order type. And Howe Wynn's hook this year is that he's got a compelling refugee story, has a compelling family story about his trans child. He works for the Ramsey County Attorney's office currently. Was a corrections officer, and I feel like Anders Folk is at risk also of falling to third place at a primary potentially, just because no one thinks of him. What do we think, Jason?
Yeah, I think I can see the parallels, especially between Ryan Winkler and Anders Folk. Gets a little dicier comparing Howe Wynn and Martha Holton Dimmick, but for the purposes of the exercise, and from what I witnessed at the endorsing event over the weekend, I do think that people are much more taken with Howe Wynn. He is a much more compelling speaker. He is somebody who can really communicate well, especially to a large group of people. I think, John, you and I were both approached by one young man who was very impressed with Howe Wynn and was asking, why people wouldn't support him. And I can understand that. I can see where people who are not used to this process, or even who are used to this process, might look at him and say, wow, what a fascinating candidate. But I also, should point out that Howe Wynn and Anders Folk combined with Matt Pelican to get about over half of the delegates that Cedrick Frazier did.
Fairly accurate. I think maybe you're underestimating the Folk plus Win percentages, but not by much. So I feel like the young man who approached us, I love that we're referring to him as a young man. the child delegate who approached us about how when I don't want this to be interpreted as me providing oppo research on one of my past guests, but like if people go to the like 45-minute mark in my how when conversation and listen through like maybe 55 minutes, or maybe it's to the end of the episode, we get to talking about policies on like traffic stops, like prosecutions arising from low-level traffic stops, or policies about interrogating children in schools, and whether their lawyer should need to be present, things like that. We get to talking about whether these policies are necessary. I thought we would have a conversation about, like, I disagree with this or that aspect of the policy. But he seemed to have this idea that we don't even need policies on these topics. Like, I expect my prosecutors, I'm paraphrasing, to like follow the Constitution. We're going to be relying on the Constitution. We're going to be ethical. We don't. And so like that he thinks policies aren't necessary to address these problems, and that prosecutors are just going to do the right thing because the system works and they're good people. Like I was very surprised by that answer. And I don't know that people who are very progressive would appreciate that or think that that's as cool as maybe the speech they heard at the DFL convention over the weekend. So young man, if you're listening, go back and listen to an extremely long conversation I had with Hao Win, who really surprised me with that answer.
I will say that is an interesting answer, and I would say historically that has not necessarily been true in the Hennepin County Attorney's office. So I think there perhaps are some needs for policies there. And I ultimately don't know whether Hao Win or Anders Folk is going to finish second or third in the primary, but I know that we're going to do everything we can at the DFL to make sure Cedrick Frazier, our DFL endorsed candidate, finishes first in the primary, and that he defeats either Hao Win or Anders Folk in the general election.
So during the break, Josh, you were like doing these wild arm motions, very flamboyant arm motions, gesturing towards the big screen.
So in one instance, I gestured towards the big screen.
Oh no, there are multiple instances of this. I think there's
just the one instance.
There's photo evidence. If people want to go to my Blue Sky of
I think it's the same photo edited different ways.
People can judge for themselves. Go to my Blue Sky, and it's like every 10 minutes, Josh goes up on stage and is gesturing to the big board, and it's like, hey everyone, buy a box of Club Undies, sign up for a monthly subscription of Club Undies, and then there's a photo of the underpants with Amy Klobuchar's face on them on the big board. And then what was the other one? Oh yeah, you're selling your own underpants too on the big screen. The Josh R.R. Martin boxer shorts you were selling.
Yeah,
and
people don't know that the RR stands for Robert's Rules.
Yes, the RR in Josh R.R. Martin stands for Robert's Rules. And you're selling Josh R.R. Martin merchandise during a political convention. I just hope that money is going to the party and not right into your pocket.
Well, certainly if I was selling Josh R.R. Martin branded underwear at a DFL convention, then that money would go to CD5 DFL. We may have to consider that for a fundraiser in the future, but just to set the record straight, I was gesturing at the instructions for how to fill out your ballot, and some enterprising individuals, including the host of this podcast, have taken it upon themselves to, in good fun, I'm sure, edit that to make it appear as if I was gesturing at other things.
Are you accusing me of doing a meme template and reusing it over and over again to put you in hilarious positions?
I think that is what I am accusing you of. Yes, exactly.
I wouldn't do that. I'm verified on Blue Sky. I have the blue check on Blue Sky, and I don't think it's legal for me to do that.
I mean, I know that you're not allowed to
just
lie
a straight
on Twitter,
newsman. John has never made a joke in his life. Everyone will back that up.
Yep.
It was pointed out to me that the chair of the convention was very offended and felt attacked by one of my posts, and I want to apologize. I was not attacking the chair of the convention. I think she had said
think you
something
were
about
more
how like
attacking
we're
the
all
body of the convention.
she had said something in the mic about how we're all surprised at how things are going, something to that effect. And I'm like,
At how long things were taking, I think.
yeah, I'm like, no, anyone who shows up to one of these should expect a shit show, and you'd be a fool to expect otherwise. I wasn't calling her a fool. I was just making a joke about how conventions are inevitably long and messy things, and no one should expect them to go smoothly. And I hope that she will understand. I'm just a mean man.
That's why people yell, "There goes the mean man," when you walk by.
That's exactly what Latricia Vitale yells at me whenever she sees me. Is there anything we need to say about Hennepin County Attorney's race? You got any thoughts about that one?
I mean, I think it was great with the endorsing process. Cedrick was endorsed on the first ballot. It really shows the depth of the support that he has and the way that DFLers are ready to support him to make him our next Hennepin County attorney.
County board. We had districts 3 and 2 on the ballot.
And
Marion Greene.
And 4, technically.
Oh, yes. We forget about Angela Conley because it took literally a minute from when she was endorsed, from when she was nominated to when she was endorsed for that to transpire. People forget. Don't forget Angela Conley.
Yeah, Angela Conley, beloved friend of the podcast. Mm-hmm. And my associate on the City Planning Commission. And also, if you look at Angela Conley being endorsed, I think that was sort of what people had anticipated for sheriff, that there would be this immediate endorsement by acclamation rather than a 6-hour slog.
Is that is that how long that battle of attrition with literally no one was between the sheriff and nobody?
We gavelled in pretty promptly at about 9:00, and I believe it was a little after 3 that Sheriff Witt withdrew.
I'm glad you brought that up again, Jason, because Josh, I'm curious if it was wise. Can you do political analysis for us on whether it is wise to get into a battle of attrition with no one? A 5-round battle of attrition? Like, I was thinking it doesn't look likely. People who are against Witt are very motivated, and they are not likely to leave without getting what they came here for. And that was borne out by the fact that she kind of lost ground on some of those later ballots. Her numbers were going down. And so would it have made more sense to like drop out after 2 rounds or 3 rounds instead of pushing it?
Well, I will say on the 3rd round, she did get up to 58.29%. So I can certainly see the lot, and not even taking into account the fact that there was only one candidate. I think it's not unusual for a candidate who is very close to 60% to think, well, if we can talk to a few more delegates, we can flip a few more delegates, we can get to that 60% mark. That didn't happen in this instance, but that's an understandable impulse.
Josh, can you, with that exact percentage, I believe you said 52.4?
58.29% on the 3rd round.
How many delegates would it have taken approximately, like, to bump that up to 60%? It couldn't have been more than a handful, right?
Yeah, so there were only 362 votes on that one, which was lower than some of the other votes. I don't know if people were out of the room or what occurred. You would have needed 218 votes to get to 60, above 60% there. So you would have needed 7 more delegates. So that could have been achieved by flipping 7 of the no endorsement individuals on that vote, or by flipping all 7 of the abstentions, or by, I assume there are at least some people who were not in the room at that time, since the votes on later rounds were higher.
Yeah, it feels like it was maybe right there if there had been some of those conversations you mentioned. I personally didn't see Sheriff Witt in our section at all, which kind of surprised me, considering that, we had candidates from other county board districts who stopped by just to say hi to us and things like that.
Are we actually surprised by that, though? Wouldn't there have been jeering?
It's possible. It's hard to say. But you would imagine that a serious candidate who is trying for that endorsement would be doing something to try to gather those last handful of votes.
Is that foreshadowing, Jason? Are you foreshadowing the District 3 county board race with, you imagine a candidate would be doing literally anything?
I mean,
are we talking about District 3 next?
I did say a serious candidate.
Okay. All right. So you're excluding Josh Bassais from your definition of serious candidate. The most delicious, I guess we're not going to say
actually,
at the end.
Really quick, I do want to ask Josh a quick procedural question as the official parliamentarian. Prior to the second ballot, a former Hennepin County Attorney candidate campaign manager, who I believe is currently employed by the county sheriff and potentially working on her campaign, made a motion for us to switch to paper ballots, which was adopted by a 1/3 vote. We only needed a third to change that rule.
Correct.
And then before the third ballot, he came back up and asked to switch back to a badge count. And then there was some discussion. People said, yes, we voted to do that. Then there was some more discussion about unrelated things. And another person came back up and said, no, I want to change the rules again and go back to paper ballots. So my question, Josh, is, could we have conceivably just wasted the entire day switching means of how we were going to ballot that one vote?
I mean, I think at some point that I would have advised the chair to start ruling those motions out of order as dilatory. I will note that in this particular instance, even though those two motions were both regarding the same ballot, they did occur sometime apart as various intervening business had occurred. It also is only a 1/3 vote to request a written ballot, so it seemed reasonable to have an attempt to see if that could be achieved, and of course it was achieved.
How many times do you allow that in your big book of parliamentarianism before it becomes?
I feel like if you've switched from one form to another, you should be not allowed to go back and vote to go back to the other form. It's like if the city council takes an action, I don't think you can immediately go back and undo it in the same meeting, right?
So under Robert's rules, typically, many motions, once a decision's been made, it is more difficult to undo that decision. But for some motions that, like usually procedural motions, like they can be moved again after there's been other intervening business. So I think that's the argument here. I think, again, I would point out that only 1/3 is required to switch to a written ballot.
So give us the behind the scenes. Did you really just forget that you had already allowed them to switch from paper ballot to badge ballot?
No.
That's probably the real story. Josh is covering for the real story. The chair had forgotten what had happened and didn't know they were undoing a thing that had just been done.
It's not what happened.
Just like the real story is that Josh was frequently putting things on the big screen that were inappropriate merchandise items with people's faces on them to raise money for the DFL or possibly to pocket for his own bank account. Are we ready to talk about Josh Bassais failing to get nominated?
I mean,
talk about that.
There are so many events that happened in the course of that one event, of that endorsement event, that I never foresaw happening once. And I feel like that is by far the biggest one.
Yeah. I asked after it happened, they're doing nominations for District 3, and it's Marion Greene, it's Kevin Chavis, and then nobody says Josh Bassais. Nobody says it. I think I've lost my mind.
Yeah, I texted
missed
you
it.
to say, did I miss Josh Bassais getting nominated?
Mm-hmm. And I'm asking everyone around me, did Josh Bassais get nominated? Because I don't trust my own ears. It's the craziest thing I have seen in a while at a convention. Nobody, to not have a single delegate. I don't know how much money he has. I assumed he was like the Jacob Fry candidate in District 3 for county board. I just assumed the money was pouring in. He had a real campaign and he would at least have one delegate, but no one nominated him.
Sitting in the District 3 section, and having heard them call that nominations were closed and having not heard his name, I was scrambling, like, how did I miss, someone nominated Bassais, of course, and how did I miss who it was? Because I was very curious as to who it would be. And then a few minutes later, he shows up in the aisle. I was like 2 seats in from the aisle. He shows up in the aisle, stops 2 rows ahead of me, and is trying to get the attention of a blonde woman in the middle of the section. And she looks over at him, and he starts gesticulating to her to like get up and take the microphone. But the gesture was something like this, and it was. I don't.
And for listeners, Jason is making a bring the microphone to your mouth gesture that could, in context outside of a DFL convention, could be interpreted as inappropriate and possibly sexual.
And she looked at him and just slowly turned away and did not acknowledge him in any way. And then he sort of scuttled off. And I was trying to explain to the people next to me, because they're like, who's that guy? And I was trying to explain to them that he had run for city council last year, that he had been endorsed by Minneapolis, or all of Minneapolis, and that he does have some political connections, but he could not apparently bring any of those to bear to even get a first nomination, much less the seconds that you need to be officially nominated at this event.
He walks in well past when it can be resolved. Like, the nominations are closed. So by the time he's walking in trying to resolve it, it can't be resolved. Josh, would you have allowed them to reopen nominations at that point? Is that a thing that could have been done?
A motion to reopen nominations is in order, and I think we would have allowed it as long as the speeches hadn't already started. But a motion to reopen nominations requires a majority vote. So I anticipate he may not have achieved that.
Another problem is, not only do you need at least one person to nominate you, you would need 15 delegates to back that up and say, yes, we would like him to be a candidate. And he definitely would.
Well, he had 0 delegates.
If you struggle this much, he had 0 delegates. Josh Bassais came to the convention with 0 delegates. That is so hard. He couldn't bring himself or a family member or a friend or someone who likes Josh Bassais enough to spend their day at a county convention. He couldn't muster one person.
And I thought, maybe what he was trying to do was, something that we saw at an earlier convention for CD5, where a candidate who, is running for Congress, took the stage and said, I know I'm not going to win here, so I'm not going to compete. I thought maybe that's what he was going to try to do, but in the end, he couldn't even, get a microphone to speak. I've never seen anything like this. I've been to maybe not as many conventions as Josh has this spring, but between last year and this year, I don't think I can count the number of conventions I've been to on both hands, certainly. And I've never seen anything like this. Like, going forward, if you're Josh Bassais, how do you attempt to get any credibility when you say you're going to run for something? Is he going to have to go and like challenge Eric Harris Bernstein for the lowest ranking and least respected elected official in Minneapolis?
It's really kind of a riddle when you're a perennial candidate to not just increasingly put up more pathetic efforts year after year and just swirl that drain of the perennial candidate until, you become Josh again.
He does seem to be moving in the wrong direction from his previous campaign.
People are coming out of the woodwork to say Josh Bassais does not do any work. He does not talk to people. He does not make phone calls. He was sitting around in the like cafeteria area of the convention or whatever that main space in the school was, just kind of looking at his phone, not engaging anyone. Does not appear to have staff or volunteers or anyone assisting him. I was like, why are you even running? Josh, I know you served as Soren Stevenson's body double during the 2025
yes, that's correct, yeah.
City Council race in Ward 8, where Josh Bassais was the main opponent there and put up a respectable showing. Bassais did.
More respectable than he did on Saturday, yes.
Right. Didn't have 0%. He had 40%? But was it your experience of Josh Bassais that he was not working hard?
Okay. Josh Bassais, 38.7% in 2025. I will say there were times where I wondered, what is the Josh Bassais campaign doing? But, we did see at least some evidence of him door knocking. We saw him out and about. We did see literature around. Certainly it was not enough of an effort to win him the election, but there were activities that occurred.
Because we had initially attributed Soren Stevenson's win to Soren Stevenson being just very impressive.
And that's absolutely correct.
That may not be correct in hindsight because Josh Bassais appears to be someone who just kind of sits around and expects things to happen.
Well, two things can be true, John. Like maybe Josh Bassais was a pretty lackluster candidate for city council, and Soren Steven was also a fantastic candidate for city council, and those two things combined led to the result that we got.
I feel bad for Soren Stevenson being constantly referred to by multiple of his colleagues as council member Sorensen. That happens quite frequently, and I feel like people need to stop doing that. It's Soren Stevenson.
People struggle with Soren's name in many different ways.
Yeah, and I would say, yes, it is certainly a little disrespectful to continually mispronounce his name. However, I will also note that Soren Stevenson debuted a very unusual mispronunciation of a beloved.
It's 38th and Chi, right? It's 38th and Chi.
I was trying to spare him the indignity of saying exactly what he said.
All-day festival in George Floyd Square, or 38 Chi, or 38th in Chicago. It has many names. Please come.
38th and Shy.
It's Shy.
If you say she, say it the right way. You don't know what you're talking about. Okay.
But so maybe it's a little bit of karma.
Okay. I thought we would get out of this episode without bullying Soren Stevenson. Why does he come up on a county DFL convention wrap-up in the
context
episode?
of Josh Bassais? Yeah. But then, we did have in District 3, we had what you might refer to as North Korea numbers kind of situation, where Marion Greene received about 75% of the delegates, and Kevin Chavez got about 25. And to Kevin's credit, he has suspended his campaign and has called for unity moving forward toward the fall. So it is too late for him to remove his name from the primary ballot because of how late in the season this endorsement event happened.
Do we think Josh Bassais is going to election officials and is there any way for me to get my name off of this ballot?
That sounds like a lot of work, John.
Yes, he might have to talk to someone to do that. I don't like to make phone calls. I don't like talking to people sometimes. I like to keep to myself, so I can understand that, Josh Bassais. I feel your pain. It's very difficult to be a perennial candidate who suffers from crippling laziness, and we hope you go on to bigger and better things and stop putting your name out there on ballots to run for stuff. You don't have to do this. It's optional. You don't have to be a perennial candidate. So, Mary, I was thinking there would be more anti-Marion Greene sentiment simply based on Lyndale Avenue stuff, because we've had two incredibly shouty, fact-free meetings at the VFW in Uptown over Lyndale Avenue. One of them, Josh Bassais, was sitting in the front row, looking up at Marion Greene, hold the microphone and take questions from the crowd, which I thought was funny.
Did he make obscene microphone gestures at her as well?
He did not. He was just kind of basking in the glow of Andrea Corbin berating Marion Greene for her for being just terrible.
That was probably the high point of his campaign.
It was. So you would assume someone upset about Lyndale Avenue would show up to show Marion Greene.
It seems like it was a different crowd at the Hennepin County DFL Convention based on the results we got.
But yeah, I mean, we shouldn't pretend that conventions are not a representation of real opinion. That is like an anti-caucus and convention argument, is that things that are happening in the real world are just completely disconnected from the crazy people, these far left radicals who show up to a convention. I feel like there's translation there.
And I agree completely.
Yeah,
there is a process through by which people are elected as delegates on caucus night, and that's how they become convention delegates. I think that although it's not a perfect representation, I think we do a very good job of this being a representation of the broader electorate within the DFL. But that's not what I was trying to say. I was trying to say the Hennepin County DFL Convention was a very different crowd from the people who were at that shouty Lyndale meeting specifically.
Okay. Because those people probably don't even live in District 3.
Yeah. So maybe that Lyndale meeting was not representative of the electorate.
I agree. So that's a good takeaway. I like Marion Greene. I think she's worthy of support, and I'm glad she won endorsement.
Yeah. As an elected, I've had the opportunity to connect with Marion a bit, and I've always enjoyed being able to talk with her and get her viewpoints on things, and to kind of figure out how I can ask her questions to inform my own thought processes and things like that. So and I was also fortunate enough as a delegate to speak with Kevin Chavez a few times, and I found him to be pleasant, but I felt like Marion had a better grasp of policy and the sort of, this is how you make things happen, as opposed to just saying these are the things that I want to happen.
Okay, we're ending on District 2, County Board District 2. Irene Fernando also endorsed on the first ballot. Josh, do you recall what the numbers were there?
Irene Fernando, 36 votes for 65.45%. Sharon Elamine, 10 votes for 18.18%. Makeda Zulu, 8 votes, 14.55%, and no endorsement, 1 vote, 1.82%.
Okay, I also like Irene Fernando. And
so I would also like to point out that this was another endorsement that came with something I had never seen before. There was a fourth person who was nominated, so that put them a step ahead of Josh Bassais. and that they had somebody nominate them, but then they could not get the required number of seconds for their nomination to be actually put into the vote.
But Jason, you have seen that before at the state convention. Paul Ferentz was nominated but did not receive the required number of seconds to be placed into nomination.
Yes.
Although it was a somewhat higher bar for seconds for that race.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that felt more understandable to me than not being able to get 16 people out of the group to support you being on the ballot. I mean, in general, my impression of conventions and endorsing events is that even if people don't support you, they're always in favor of getting more people on the ballot.
Not me.
You know? That's
Not
true.
me. This is an excellent rule because I have been to so many ward conventions to endorse city council members where multiple crackpot candidates who have no support end up taking time. This is also a thing that I've seen happen at Senate district conventions, taking up time during the Q&A. And it's like, we only potentially have like half an hour for the Q&A or 15 minutes or something. And if half of the candidates are not running real campaigns and have no support, that's a real disservice to the convention, because it just takes up time with people who have no chance of winning. So demonstrating some baseline level of support to show that you're a real candidate is just a rule every convention should have.
Yeah. So the one thing I do want to make sure to say about this rule is that we use the rules from 4 years ago as a starting point, and that included, and we changed some things. But this rule we did not change. This was copied verbatim from the convention for 4 years ago. So it was not designed with any of the races happening this year in mind. So we were not targeting any particular race or any particular candidate. With that said, I think there is something to be said for an idea of providing a baseline level of support in order to move forward in the process, because it does take a significant amount of time to have your speech. You get to be part of the Q&A. There needs to be a ballot. And I can think of, for example, there was a Senate district convention this year where a candidate ran against an incumbent. And they had to go through the whole rigmarole of the speeches and the Q&A and a ballot vote. And then that candidate got 2 votes, not 2%, 2 votes out of hundreds of delegates. So yeah, I think there is something to be said for having a baseline level of support so that people aren't wasting the convention's time. With that said, I think there's discussions about exactly what the appropriate level of support is for that. Certainly a criticism that I heard, and I think this is fair, is that the district conventions are much smaller because each of them is only a seventh of the full convention, roughly. So there are 7 districts. So 15 votes might be very reasonable for the full county convention, but there's potentially an argument that it's too high of a threshold for the individual districts.
But it's not. Nobody with 15 supporters was going to stand a chance. You're not even in the conversation at 15 supporters. So it's still very low, even in the districts.
Well, and 15 seconders doesn't necessarily mean you even have 15 supporters.
Yeah, it's just 15 people who are sympathetic enough to say, well, good effort. We like that you're here. We will at least consider you. Like, none of those people are obligated to even support your campaign. They're just like, I will look kindly on you and do you a favor. You could even get together with other campaigns and say, we're all going to nominate each other, right? It could be the same people nominating every campaign.
Yeah, I believe there were some people in District 2 who did second people from second multiple candidates to make sure they were on the ballot, which again is all to say that 16 more people than Josh Bassais was able to get to nominate him.
Yeah. Just everyone should know the standard of crashing and burning at this convention was 16 points higher than what Josh Bassais was able to do. I think that's the metric of crashing and burning. Josh Bassais is 16 levels below that.
I will also say I, on the stage, was very confused when Josh Bassais was not nominated.
Did you also think you lost your hearing? Did you think you had a stroke on stage?
Yeah, I did not know what was going on, but I eventually realized, well, I guess he wasn't nominated. So I had to run over to our tech team real quick so we could adjust the slides because we assumed he would be nominated. So we had to remove.
You're like, we're going to commercial. Put Clob Undies on the screen.
Yep, that's what Josh was doing, was distracting people from the fact that they were actually changing the names on the screen in the moment.
Sure. But yeah, also it's so puzzling that the only true DFLer could not get a single person to nominate him in a DFL convention.
Josh is still upset about things that happened at the Ward 8 convention in 2025, where Josh Bassais claimed Soren Stephen was not worthy of the stage, even that Josh Bassais was the only true DFLer on the stage, and people at that convention didn't like it at all. But at least there were enough people at that convention to get him nominated, at least. So when I was talking to Keith Ellison at Open Streets on Lindale, a woman approached us and was talking him up and was like, I want you to come over and talk. I think maybe it was his mom. I think she said, I want you to come over and talk to my son who's running for county board. And maybe Ellison said something like, oh, who is he? And she said, Josh Bassais. And then I jump in. I'm like, well, if you bring him back to talk to Keith Ellison, he's going to have to talk to me. And she's like, who are you? And I said, I'm John Edwards from Wedge Live. And that probably didn't ring a bell, but they never came back to talk to us.
What an amazing turn of events we've seen.
Maybe if he had appeared on the Wedge Live podcast, he could have found among your listeners one person at the Hennepin County Convention to nominate him.
I have hate listeners. Listen, moderates and conservatives and people who wrongly think that I'm a far left wacko. I have hate listeners, and you could get some negative polarization support by appearing here and feuding with me.
I will say that I believe that the person that Josh was attempting to get to belatedly nominate him, I don't believe that she is a fan of yours.
Yeah, probably not. Although she did smile at me once. Didn't Julie Wickland smile at us, Josh, at a recent Charter Commission meeting? I think she was smiling at us.
Yes, yeah. She might have been waving at me and you were just there, but yeah, she did wave.
That often happens. People will be smiling and waving at Taylor, and I will say, oh, they must be smiling and waving at me. And also happens when I'm in public with Josh. People are smiling and waving at Josh, and not me, but
you're just swimming in their wake.
Yeah. So the reports that I got from the convention are that the small talk that was happening in the Julie Wickland vicinity was Josh Bassais. I don't support Josh Bassais because Josh Bassais doesn't do good work. He's not campaigning for this. He's not working, and I don't appreciate it, and so I'm not supporting him. That's the paraphrase.
Yikes.
I don't know that we adequately discussed the Irene Fernando endorsement, but good job, Irene Fernando. Hope Irene Fernando is reelected. She probably will be. She said this is her last term.
Yeah, this is her last time running for this office, and I definitely want to make a point of thanking her for all of the work she has done. I hope that she gets reelected. She's been a wonderful commissioner and advocate for District 2. She's done so much work toward keeping HCMC going, and that's something that I think all of us throughout the state really owe her a debt of gratitude for that effort. And it was really great to see her again not get the endorsement on the first ballot.
And she also, it was towards the end of the 2025 campaign where she came out and said basically the Frye administration and MPD are not adequately investigating and addressing these cases of domestic violence that have ended with women being murdered. And there's a dynamic here in the District 2 race of Mayor Frye and his faction in Minneapolis coming after her. So that is also at play.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
Is there anything else we should talk about that happened at the convention? Oh, is it the shame-o-meter? What's it called again?
I mean, the shame-o-meter or the shame-ometer, you can pronounce it however you'd like, but something
How would
to
Soren
imply
Stevenson pronounce it?
The 38th and shame-ometer. I think that, the big thing to get across to people is that it may seem like, only a few notable things happened, considering that of the 5 candidates that we were seeking to endorse, 4 of them were endorsed on the first ballot. So you might think only one really embarrassing outcome happened. But in reality, there were so many more embarrassing things that came up. And I can only imagine what it was like from Josh's perspective on stage, watching these things occur, and having to preside over this event with dignity and grace, which Josh did an excellent job of, as he always does. But I think it would have broken a lesser man to see these things from the stage and not be able to stop them.
Okay, let's put up the embarrassing moments up on the big board. We have Sheriff Witt going 5 rounds with no one and still not winning. We have Viviana Salazar getting nominated but failing to acquire the necessary 15 seconds to become a candidate at the convention. And also we have Josh Bassais not having a single delegate in the District 3 race. And what does the AI say about which of these scenarios is the most embarrassing? Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? Oh, the computer says it is Josh Bassais not having a single supporter in District 3. Wow.
Who else was it going to be, honestly?
Yeah, he was really the only candidate in this race. It was definitely always going to be Josh Bassais.
I'm sure he got more support for this result than he had on Saturday.
Yeah. Josh, are you becoming more of a comedian on stage? I have never seen more of your personality on a stage than I saw at this convention. What is happening? Are you preparing jokes? Do you have a team of writers?
No, just me. It just comes naturally. I think it's good. These can be very tense events, especially on Saturday, and so you gotta keep it light, and try to maintain calmness in the room.
Okay. And are you going to still be using the hilarious visuals? Are you going to be posting more underpants on the big board just to keep it light?
Well, as I've discussed, that still didn't happen. But apparently I can't control myself from making inexplicable hand gestures, which can be used by people out of context to add me holding various things. I believe for a while there was a lot of circulations of me holding a gigantic fish when I was speaking at a different event.
I would like to say, though, that at least your inexplicable hand motions do not verge on the sexual innuendo side of things.
Yeah, my inexplicable hand gestures aren't gonna get me a code of conduct complaint, so that's good. And I will advise all delegates not to make the same hand gesture as Josh Bassais at a DFL convention. It may be taken the wrong way, and we may have to have the sergeants at arms have a chat with you.
I really hope he comes back. Come back and run for something else. Maybe move to Edina and run there. There's a theme with some of these perennial candidates where they will run and then move as far west as they can until they become viable. and yet still they never become viable. We've seen that with Alicia Gibson too.
I mean, they may have to move all the way out of CD5 at this point, given the recent politics in our congressional district.
Okay, thank you both for your analysis here today on this Hennepin County DFL Convention wrap-up episode. Commissioner of Community Punditry and also the Park Board, Jason Garcia, and Josh Martin.
Happy Pride Month, everyone.
Yes, happy Pride Month. And I'm your host, John Edwards. Thank you for listening to the Wedge Live podcast.
This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.